Welcome to Bone Spears and Starships. We are proud to present The Counter-Invasion of Zorvath. Chapter 1, The Sky Splits Open. General James Hawkins squinted at the pre-dawn sky, the bitter wind whipping his thinning brown hair across his forehead. He wasn't looking for stars tonight. His gaze scanned the inky expanse, searching for any sign of the alien armada the intel reports kept buzzing about. An unease, a primal sense of foreboding, gnawed at him. "Still nothing, sir?" Captain Maya Singh's voice cut through the tense silence. Her fiery brown eyes mirrored the worry etched on Hawk's face. "Not a flicker," Hawk grumbled, his voice gravelly from years of barking orders. Maybe those reports were just spooks after all. A flicker of hope sparked in Maya's eyes, but it was quickly extinguished by a shrill alarm that pierced the quiet. Red lights strobed across the control room, bathing the tense faces of the night shift in an ominous glow. Captain Singh pointed a trembling finger at the main monitor. "General," her voice barely a whisper, "look at this." Hawk lurched towards the screen, his blood draining from his face. A colossal, obsidian ship, unlike anything he'd ever encountered, hovered silently in the upper atmosphere. Its jagged silhouette seemed to devour the stars, casting an inky shadow over the desert landscape. "What in the hell?" Hawk muttered, his voice thick with disbelief. Before he could finish the thought, the sky split open. A blinding beam of energy erupted from the alien vessel, slamming into the heart of the base with a bone-jarring roar. The ground trembled violently, throwing Hawk and Maya off their feet. A deafening explosion filled the air as buildings crumpled like paper dolls under the relentless assault. "Get everyone to the shelters. Now!" Hawk bellowed, grabbing the microphone. His voice, hoarse with urgency, cut through the rising panic. "Comms are down, General," a young officer shouted, his face pale with terror. "We can't reach anyone." Hawk swore under his breath. This wasn't a mere attack, it was an invasion. His worst fears had materialized, and Earth was utterly unprepared. "Maya, get on the emergency beacon." Hawk barked, grabbing his battered backpack and worn sidearm. "We need to warn the others, even if it's our last act." Maya scrambled towards the flickering console, her fingers flying across the keypad. "Systems fried, General. No outgoing signal." Another tremor shook the ground, and the ceiling groaned ominously. Hawk knew they were running out of time. "There has to be another way." Maya yelled, her voice laced with desperation. "The comms bunker. It might still be operational." Hawk's eyes narrowed. The comms bunker was a last resort, buried deep beneath the base. It was designed to withstand a direct hit, but getting to it would be a gamble. "Follow me." Hawk barked, leading the way out of the control room. Smoke and dust filled the air, choking the panicked cries of soldiers rushing for cover. The metallic tang of blood hung heavy in the air. Hawk spotted Sergeant Miller, a grizzled veteran with a bloody bandage around his head, struggling to pull a young soldier from the wreckage of a fallen console. "Miller, get your men to the shelters." Hawk shouted over the din, "We're heading for the comms bunker." Miller looked up, surprise flickering across his grimy face. "But sir, it's—" "No time to argue." Hawk snapped, already sprinting towards the nearest emergency exit. Maya followed close behind, her boots kicking up debris as they navigated the collapsing hallways. The base was in ruins around them, a testament to the swift and brutal efficiency of the alien attack. Hawk could feel the heat of an approaching explosion at his back, urging him forward. They reached the blast door leading to the comms bunker just as another beam of energy slammed into the base, the ground heaving beneath their feet. The door groaned under the impact, sparks showering down. "Hold it!" Hawk yelled, throwing his shoulder against the heavy door. Maya joined him, her face grim with determination. With a combined effort, they forced the door open a crack. Heat and smoke billowed out, momentarily obscuring their vision. Coughing and spluttering, they squeezed through the opening just as the blast door slammed shut behind them with a resounding clang. Chapter 2, A World in Flames. Hawk and Maya stumbled through the smoke-filled corridor, coughing and gasping for breath. The metallic tang of blood hung heavy in the air, a grim reminder of the carnage above. The oppressive silence of the comms bunker was a stark contrast to the cacophony of destruction that had consumed the base just moments ago. "Are we the only ones who made it?" Maya rasped, her voice hoarse. Hawk shook his head, his expression grim. "Doubt it. Miller might have gotten his men to the shelters in time." Reaching the control room, they found Sergeant Miller already hunched over a battered console, his face illuminated by the flickering emergency lights. "Any luck?" Hawk asked, the question hanging heavy in the air. Miller slammed his fist on the console in frustration. "Dead. Every damn channel. They must have targeted communication hubs first." Despair threatened to overwhelm Hawk. Without a way to warn the rest of the world, Earth was blind and vulnerable. He scanned the room, his gaze falling on a dusty map of the globe plastered across the wall. Cities he'd trained in, bases he'd commanded, were now likely under siege. "They're everywhere," Maya murmured, tracing her finger along the map. "Global assault." Hawk nodded, a cold anger hardening his features. "We underestimated them. Intel reports were incomplete." The silence stretched, broken only by the rhythmic hum of the emergency generator. The weight of their situation settled heavily on them. They were a tiny island of resistance in a sea of chaos, a handful of survivors clinging to a desperate hope. Suddenly, a flicker of movement on a secondary monitor caught Hawk's eye. A faint signal, buried under static, was emanating from a remote listening post in the Alaskan wilderness. "There!" Hawk exclaimed, pointing at the screen. "A weak signal from Northcom, Alaska. Maybe they haven't been hit yet." A sliver of hope pierced through the despair. It wasn't much, but it was all they had. Miller's fingers flew across the console, expertly manipulating the dying equipment. "Patching them through," he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead. Static filled the room, punctuated by bursts of indecipherable chatter. Then, a voice, distorted but clear, cut through the noise. "This is Major Davies, Northcom, Alaska. We're under attack. Repeat, under attack by unknown hostiles." Hawk grabbed the microphone, his voice thundering through the room. "Major Davies. This is General Hawkins. We're at Nevada Base Delta. We're under attack too. Hold on. We're sending reinforcements." A beat of stunned silence followed, then a choked laugh from the speaker. "Reinforcements, General? We're barely holding our own up here." "What reinforcements?" Hawk's heart sank. He had no answer. His promise of reinforcements felt hollow, a cruel mockery in the face of their dwindling resources. The transmission abruptly cut out, replaced by a wall of static. A chilling realization dawned on Hawk. Northcom, Alaska might not be alone. The world might already be falling. He slammed his fist on the console, frustration and anger bubbling up inside him. They were trapped, isolated, and woefully unprepared. The Zorvathian invasion, it seemed, was relentless and unstoppable. But even in the face of despair, a spark of defiance flickered in Hawk's eyes. They may be outnumbered and outgunned, but they wouldn't surrender. They would fight. They would find a way to resist. "We need to get a message out," Hawk declared, his voice resolute. "Even if it's just a beacon, a single spark of hope. We need the world to know they're not alone." Maya met his gaze, a flicker of determination mirroring his own. "Then let's get to work, General," she said, her voice firm. "We may not have an army, but we have our ingenuity. And we have our fury." Chapter 3, Ashes and Embers. Days bled into a weary blur. Trapped within the steel womb of the comms bunker, Hawk, Maya, and Miller subsisted on meager rations and stale water. The flickering emergency lights cast an ever-present gloom, a constant reminder of the world they'd lost. Their only window to the outside world was the faint, crackly signal from a handful of scattered resistance pockets. Each crackle held a story of desperation, a fallen city, a valiant last stand, a desperate plea for help. Each fading transmission chipped away at the fragile hope that had flickered to life in the Alaskan outpost. Hawk spent his days glued to the monitors, piecing together a horrifying picture of the invasion. Zorvathian warships dominated the skies, their advanced weaponry turning human cities into smoldering ruins. Reports of brutal ground assaults and captured civilians painted a grim picture of the alien occupation. Yet, amidst the despair, flickers of defiance emerged. Pockets of resistance, fueled by a desperate will to survive, fought back against the overwhelming odds. A militia leader in Rio, a band of insurgents in Tokyo, a lone radio operator broadcasting defiance from a hidden bunker, these were the embers of hope, the sparks Hawk desperately clung to. One evening, as the flickering lights danced on their weary faces, Maya broke the oppressive silence. "General, we can't just sit here," she said, her voice tight with frustration. "We need a plan." Hawk sighed, rubbing his temples with a tired hand. "A plan for what, Captain?" "We're cut off, surrounded, and outgunned. We're a band of survivors in a tomb." "Maybe," Maya countered, her eyes glinting with a steely resolve. "But we're not giving up. We need to find a way to hit back, to coordinate the scattered resistance. We need to give them hope." Hawk considered her words. The idea of a coordinated counterattack seemed ludicrous in the face of their limitations. Yet, the alternative of passive surrender was unthinkable. "You're right," he conceded, a spark of determination igniting in his eyes. "We can't just wait for the inevitable. We need to become a thorn in their side, a symbol of resistance." A tense silence followed as they mulled over the possibilities. Finally, Miller spoke, his voice gruff but steady. "We still have some operational channels. We could use them to broadcast propaganda, disrupt their communication networks, sow discord amongst them." Hawk nodded. "Good thinking, Miller. We can't win a head-on fight, but we can be a nuisance, a constant reminder that they haven't truly conquered Earth." A flicker of a smile touched Maya's lips. "We can be a thorn in their side, a whisper in the dark." Their plan was far from perfect, a desperate gamble born out of necessity. But in the face of overwhelming odds, it was a start. They would use their limited resources, their ingenuity, and their unwavering defiance to fight back. They would become a beacon of hope, a rallying cry for the scattered remnants of humanity. The flickering lights of the comms bunker seemed a little brighter that night, a reflection of the newfound resolve burning in their eyes. General Hawk, Captain Singh, and Sergeant Miller, a ragtag band of survivors, were about to embark on a desperate mission to rekindle the flames of resistance and ignite a counterattack against an seemingly invincible alien force. Chapter 4, From the Ashes. Weeks bled into months. The flickering lights of the Nevada comms bunker became their grim reality. Yet, within those steel walls, a flicker of defiance had morphed into a burning ember of resistance. General Hawk, Captain Maya Singh, and Sergeant Miller had become the unlikely core of a nascent rebellion. Their initial plan was simple: disrupt, harass, and sow discord amongst the Zorvathian occupiers. Using salvaged equipment and a network of barely functioning comm channels, they broadcasted messages of defiance. They hacked into alien broadcasts, spewing propaganda and painting a picture of a united human resistance, far larger than it actually was. The impact was subtle but undeniable. Reports trickled in of confused Zorvathian patrols, of minor skirmishes sparked by mistrust between alien commanders. It was a small victory, but it fueled their resolve. One day, a faint, garbled distress signal pierced the static. It originated from an abandoned mining facility deep within the Montana wilderness, a predetermined rendezvous point established before the invasion. Decoding the message revealed a single word: refuge. Hope surged through Hawk. Maybe they weren't alone after all. The journey to Montana was fraught with danger. Zorvathian patrols scoured the wastelands, and the battered landscape offered little cover. Yet, fueled by a desperate hope, they navigated the treacherous terrain, relying on Miller's expertise in wilderness survival. Reaching the abandoned mine, they found a hidden entrance, expertly camouflaged. With pounding hearts, they descended into the darkness, not knowing what awaited them. The cavernous space within was a marvel of human ingenuity. Lights flickered on, revealing a bustling underground city, a haven for survivors. Men, women, and children, soldiers and civilians, all united by a common enemy. Hawk was greeted by a grizzled man with a steely glint in his eyes and a worn military uniform draped over his broad shoulders. "General Hawkins, I presume," the man rumbled, extending a calloused hand. "Governor Adifir Jane. Welcome to what's left of Montana." Hawk grasped the man's hand, relief washing over him. "Governor Jane. It's an honor." In the dimly lit cavern, Hawk learned of the governor's foresight. Anticipating a potential invasion, he'd secretly prepared this underground haven, a refuge for survivors and a potential base for resistance. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Hawk met with a council of resistance leaders, hardened soldiers, resourceful civilians, and even a brilliant young scientist named Dr. Sophia Patel, who had managed to salvage fragments of alien technology. Days turned into weeks as Hawk and his team integrated with the survivors. They trained new recruits, bolstered their communication network, and began formulating a more audacious plan, a true counterattack. The key to their strategy lay in Dr. Patel's work. Analyzing the salvaged alien technology, she discovered a potential weakness in the Zorvathian communication network, a vulnerability that could be exploited to disrupt their command and control. The plan was risky, a desperate gamble against a seemingly invincible enemy. But for Hawk and his team, it was the only hope for Earth's liberation. In the echoing halls of the Montana base, a new resolve took root, a united front of humanity, ready to rise from the ashes and fight back against their alien oppressors. Chapter 5: Echoes in the Dark. Deep beneath the Montana wilderness, the heart of the human resistance pulsed with a newfound energy. General Hawk, his weathered face etched with determination, addressed a room brimming with resistance fighters. Men and women from all walks of life, united by a common cause, to reclaim their planet. "The Zorvathians may control the skies," Hawk boomed, his voice echoing in the cavernous space, "but we control the shadows. We are the ghosts in the machine, the thorns in their side." His words were met with a chorus of determined murmurs. Months of planning had culminated in this moment. The time for whispers and sabotage was over. It was time to strike back. Their strategy was audacious, a series of coordinated guerrilla attacks across the globe, aimed at disrupting the Zorvathian supply lines and communication networks. Dr. Sophia Patel, the brilliant young scientist, stood beside Hawk, a holographic map of Earth projected before them. "Our intel suggests these are the key choke points," she explained, tracing lines across the shimmering image. "Fuel depots, communication hubs, power grids. Crippling these will sow chaos within their ranks." Hawk nodded, his gaze flicking to Maya, her hand hovering over a network of makeshift communication relays. "Captain Singh will ensure coordinated attacks. Remember, communication is key. Strike hard, strike fast, and vanish into the darkness." The room crackled with a nervous energy. These were not seasoned soldiers, but everyday people thrust into a desperate fight. Yet, in their eyes, Hawk saw a burning resolve, a fierce determination to protect their homes and their loved ones. The attacks began under the cloak of darkness. In Tokyo, a team of young rebels, led by a fiery resistance leader named Hannah, infiltrated a massive fuel depot, igniting a chain reaction that sent flames roaring into the night sky. Across the Atlantic, a group of former fishermen, led by a grizzled sea captain named Mikhail, used their knowledge of the coastline to launch a daring raid on a Zorvathian supply ship, crippling its engines and sending it adrift. In the heart of Africa, a band of warriors, led by a wise and resourceful elder named Ngolo, sabotaged a vital communication hub, plunging a vast swathe of the continent into darkness and sowing confusion amongst the alien occupiers. Back in Montana, Hawk and his team monitored the chaos unfolding on the holographic map. Reports trickled in, a symphony of explosions and disrupted communications. A wave of exhilaration, laced with a healthy dose of trepidation, washed over them. "It's working," Maya breathed, her voice filled with awe. "For now," Hawk cautioned, his gaze fixed on the map. "The Zorvathians will retaliate. We need to be ready for the next move. The initial attacks were a success, a defiant roar from a seemingly defeated enemy. But Hawk knew this was just the beginning. The Zorvathians wouldn't take this lying down. He could feel the storm brewing, the inevitable response that would test the mettle of the fledgling human resistance. In the echoing halls of the Montana base, the echoes of explosions and disrupted communications mingled with the steely resolve of a people fighting for their freedom. The fight had begun, and there was no turning back. Chapter 6: A Spark Across the Wasteland. News of the coordinated attacks spread like wildfire across the occupied world. Whispers in darkened alleyways, crackles of static on makeshift radios, flickering images on repurposed screens, the human resistance had struck a blow against the seemingly invincible alien force. Fear gave way to a flicker of hope, a spark of defiance that ignited a fire within the hearts of the oppressed. In the ravaged streets of Moscow, a lone radio operator, known only as the Raven, broadcasted the news of the attacks, his voice a steady beacon in the chaotic darkness. His words, filled with raw emotion and a call to arms, resonated with the city's battered population. Within days, a ragtag group of survivors, fueled by newfound courage, formed their own resistance cell, vowing to disrupt Zorvathian patrols and sabotage vital resources. Across the Pacific, in the flooded ruins of Shanghai, a group of young tech-savvy students, led by a brilliant but rebellious hacker named Lin, managed to tap into the Zorvathian communication network. Using salvaged equipment and Dr. Patel's insights, they flooded alien channels with misinformation and propaganda, sowing discord within the occupying forces. News of these acts of defiance reached the Montana base, a testament to the growing network of resistance cells sprouting across the globe. In the dimly lit command center, Hawk and his team pored over reports, a map of Earth peppered with flickering lights, each one symbolizing a new pocket of resistance. "It's spreading," Dr. Patel murmured, tracing the growing network with a hopeful smile. "The attacks are inspiring others." Hawk nodded, a flicker of pride in his eyes. "But inspiration isn't enough. We need to provide them with resources, training, and most importantly, a way to communicate." Captain Maya Singh stepped forward, a determined glint in her eyes. "We've been working on that, General. We've managed to establish a network of secure relay stations, hidden within abandoned buildings and remote locations. It's rudimentary, but it allows us to send encrypted messages and share vital information." A wave of relief washed over Hawk. Communication was the key to coordinating their efforts, to turning disparate acts of defiance into a unified resistance. With this network in place, they could begin to truly challenge the Zorvathian occupation. The fight, however, was far from over. Reports also started of brutal crackdowns by the Zorvathians, of public executions and intensified patrols aimed at crushing any sign of rebellion. The cost of defiance was high, a stark reminder of the enemy's ruthlessness. Yet, even in the face of such brutality, the spirit of resistance continued to grow. Every act of defiance, every attack on the enemy, served as a beacon of hope, a testament to the unwavering human spirit. They were no longer isolated pockets of resistance, they were a unified force, a growing storm gathering momentum to challenge the alien invaders. In the dimly lit command center deep beneath the Montana earth, Hawk stood before a wall-sized map of the world, watching as the flickering lights representing resistance cells multiplied. A grim smile played on his lips. The fight was far from won, but for the first time since the invasion, he saw a glimmer of hope, a future where humanity might reclaim its home. The embers of resistance had become a bonfire, fueled by a shared dream of freedom, and General Hawk knew he would stop at nothing to fan its flames into a force that could consume the invaders and liberate Earth. Chapter 7: A Storm over Zorda. Years had passed since the Zorvathian invasion. What began as a desperate struggle for survival had evolved into a full-blown insurgency. Under General Hawk's leadership, the human resistance had morphed into a formidable force, a network of interconnected cells that stretched across the globe. Guerrilla warfare had become an art form, disrupting supply lines, crippling communications, and inflicting heavy casualties on the overconfident invaders. Now, the tide of war was beginning to turn. Dr. Patel's ingenuity, fueled by salvaged alien technology, had yielded a breakthrough, a prototype cloaking device capable of masking the signature energy signature of human ships. With this newfound advantage, Hawk and his team dared to dream of the impossible, a direct assault on the heart of the Zorvathian Empire, the planet Zorda. Their objective, to strike a crippling blow at the heart of the enemy leadership, to capture or eliminate Emperor Xor himself. The mission was fraught with danger, a suicide run into the heart of the enemy empire. But for Hawk and his crew, it was the only hope for a swift end to the war, a chance to liberate their homeworld. The human fleet, a ragtag collection of salvaged and repurposed ships cloaked in Dr. Patel's revolutionary technology, emerged from hyperspace on the outskirts of the Zordan capital city. The metallic cityscape, a twisted monument to alien arrogance, shimmered in the harsh sunlight. "Brace yourselves," Maya's voice crackled over the intercom, her tone betraying a steely resolve. "We're going in dark." With bated breath, the crew watched as their cloaking technology flickered to life, their ship dissolving into a shimmering mirage on the enemy sensors. There were ghosts in the machine, slipping past the outer defenses undetected. Their target, the Imperial Palace, a colossal obsidian structure that dominated the city skyline, housed Emperor Xor and his elite guard. Hawk steered the flagship, his heart hammering in his chest. Every fiber of his being screamed at him of the danger, the near impossibility of their mission. But the image of a burning earth, the faces of his fallen comrades, fueled his resolve. This was for them, for a future where humanity wouldn't be slaves to an alien overlord. Their cloaking device held until they were mere kilometers from the palace. Then, a flicker, a surge of alien energy. The ship lurched violently, alarms blaring. They were detected. A swarm of sleek, obsidian fighters, the Emperor's personal guard, materialized around them. The battle was fierce, a ballet of destruction unfolding amidst the towering structures of the Zordan capital. Human laser fire, fueled by years of pent-up rage and desperation, carved through the alien ranks. But the Emperor's guard fought with a terrifying precision, their superior technology inflicting heavy damage on the human fleet. Hawk, his face grim with determination, weaved through the maelstrom, his own ship battered and smoking. He needed to get closer, to land his troops within the palace grounds. Suddenly, a deafening explosion rocked his ship. One of the engines sputtered and died, sending the vessel spiraling out of control. The bridge filled with the screams of wounded crew members. "General!" Maya yelled, her voice strained. "We're losing control. Get the landing party out." Hawk roared, his voice a defiant bellow amidst the chaos. "This is it. No turning back." With a final shudder, the human flagship slammed down onto the palace plaza, just outside the imposing obsidian gates. Smoke billowed from the crippled vessel, flames licking at the scorched hull. Hawk, his body battered but his spirit unbroken, staggered out of the wreckage. A handful of his most trusted soldiers, their faces grim but resolute, followed him. This was it. The culmination of years of struggle, the moment they would decide their own fate. With a battle cry that echoed through the alien city, Hawk and his team charged towards the palace gates. The Emperor's personal guard materialized before them, their weapons aimed and ready. A brutal firefight erupted, the plaza becoming a crucible of death. Here, at the heart of the enemy empire, General Hawk and his ragtag band of survivors would make their stand. This was the fight for Earth's liberation, and they would fight with the fury of a cornered wolf, knowing that their sacrifice might just spark the fire that would consume their oppressors. Chapter 8: Ashes of an Empire. Smoke and dust choked the air, the acrid smell of burnt metal stinging Hawk's nostrils. He stumbled through the carnage, his ears ringing from the deafening symphony of explosions. Around him, the plaza before the Imperial Palace lay in ruins, a testament to the ferocity of the battle. Bodies, both human and Zordan, littered the ground, a grim reminder of the cost of their desperate gamble. His gaze scanned for his team, his heart sinking at the sight of fallen comrades. Maya lay motionless by a shattered pillar, her face pale and lifeless. A surge of grief threatened to engulf him, but he pushed it down. There was no time for mourning. There was a war to be won. Ahead, the obsidian gates of the palace hung broken, offering a glimpse of the opulent halls within. Hawk rallied his remaining soldiers, their faces masks of grim determination. Together, they charged through the debris-strewn entrance. The interior of the palace was a chaotic scene of overturned furniture and shattered statues. The stench of burnt ozone filled the air, a testament to the destructive power of their weapons. They fought their way through opulent corridors and deserted chambers, their path illuminated by the flickering emergency lights. Finally, they reached a massive throne room, its vaulted ceiling lost in the shadows. A lone figure stood before a shimmering throne, bathed in an eerie blue light. Emperor Xor, his obsidian armor gleaming faintly, turned towards them, his piercing red eyes narrowed in a mixture of surprise and anger. "So," the Emperor rasped, his voice a cold hiss, "you humans have some fight left in you after all." Hawk ignored the taunt. "The war is over, Xor," he declared, his voice hoarse but unwavering. "We will not be slaves any longer. You will withdraw your forces from Earth and never return." The Emperor threw back his head and laughed, a harsh, grating sound that echoed through the chamber. "You think you've won?" he sneered. "You, a handful of ragged survivors, against the might of the Zorvathian Empire?" Hawk raised his hand, silencing the Emperor's tirade. "The Empire is weakened, Xor. Your supply lines are disrupted, your troops demoralized. You cannot hold Earth. The cost is too high." A tense silence followed, broken only by the ragged breaths of the soldiers. The Emperor's eyes flickered with a flicker of something that might have been fear. But his reign had been built on ruthlessness. He wouldn't surrender easily. Suddenly, a flicker on Hawk's communicator. It was Dr. Patel's voice, laced with urgency. "General, we've taken control of their communication network. We can broadcast a message across the entire planet." Hope surged through Hawk. This might be the tipping point. He glanced at the Emperor, a steely glint in his eyes. "You have a choice, Xor," he declared. "Surrender now, and your remaining troops might be allowed to return home. Or face the consequences." The Emperor stared at him for a long, agonizing moment. Then, with a sigh that seemed to echo the weariness of a dying empire, he slumped onto his throne. "Very well," he rasped, his voice defeated. "We will withdraw from Earth." At that moment, amidst the ruins of the Zorvathian Palace, a new chapter in human history began. The long years of war were over. The invaders were defeated. Earth was free. As news of the surrender spread across the planet, a wave of jubilation erupted. People poured into the streets, cheering and weeping, celebrating their liberation. Hawk, watching the joyous scenes from a battered window of the palace, allowed himself a weary smile. It had been a long, arduous journey, paved with sacrifice and loss. But they had persevered. They had won. The road to rebuilding Earth would be long and arduous. But the human spirit, tempered by the fires of war, had emerged stronger than ever. The embers of resistance had blazed into a wildfire, a testament to the unwavering human will to be free. From the ashes of an empire, a new dawn was breaking for humanity. Chapter 9: Scars and Celebrations. The once proud boulevards of Toronto, choked with debris just months ago, were now a kaleidoscope of celebration. A cacophony of cheers, whistles, and joyous shouts filled the air, a symphony of human resilience. Banners proclaiming victory fluttered in the warm breeze, their colors a stark contrast to the grayscale ruins that still dotted the cityscape. Hawk, his weathered face etched with a weary pride, stood on a makeshift platform overlooking the throngs of celebrants. He wasn't used to public displays, but today, he was a symbol, the embodiment of human defiance, the man who stared down an empire and emerged victorious. Beside him stood Dr. Sophia Patel, her youthful face beaming with a mixture of relief and excitement. In her hand, she clutched a small device, the prototype cloaking technology that had turned the tide of the war. Maya's absence cast a long shadow, a constant reminder of the sacrifices made. As the cheering reached a crescendo, Hawk raised a hand for silence. The crowd quieted, a wave of anticipation washing over them. People of Earth, Hawk began, his voice hoarse but filled with emotion, we stand here today, not just to celebrate victory, but to honor the fallen. The cost of freedom was high, paid for in the blood of our bravest sons and daughters. A hush fell over the crowd, a poignant acknowledgement of the losses they had endured. Hawk continued, his voice gathering strength. But from the ashes of war, a new dawn has risen. We have shown the galaxy that the human spirit cannot be broken. We have shown that even in the face of overwhelming odds, we can fight back, we can prevail. His words resonated with the crowd, sparking a renewed wave of cheers and applause. Flags waved, tears streamed down faces, and a collective sense of euphoria filled the air. Days turned into weeks, and the celebrations continued across the globe. Cities began the long process of rebuilding, fueled by a newfound sense of unity and purpose. Hawk, once a hardened soldier, found himself thrust into the role of reluctant hero. He toured devastated cities, offering words of encouragement and hope. His face, etched with the scars of war, became a symbol of resilience, a constant reminder of their hard-won victory. Meanwhile, Dr. Patel, along with a team of brilliant scientists, reverse-engineered the captured Zorvathian technology. Their work promised a new era of scientific advancement, pushing the boundaries of human understanding. Perhaps, one day, they would even venture out amongst the stars, not as fearful prey, but as a force to be reckoned with. One quiet evening, Hawk stood on a hill overlooking the bustling city, the scars of war slowly fading under the relentless march of time. The cityscape shimmered under the soft glow of the setting sun, a testament to the indomitable human spirit. A gentle breeze ruffled his hair, carrying with it the distant laughter of children playing in the ruins. A bittersweet smile touched Hawk's lips. The fight was won, but the scars, both physical and emotional, would forever be a part of them. Yet, amidst the ruins, hope bloomed anew. Humanity had not only survived, they had emerged stronger, more united, and ready to face whatever challenges the future might hold. The embers of resistance had become the flames of a new dawn, and General James Hawkins, the reluctant hero who had led them out of the darkness, would forever be etched in the annals of human history. Epilogue: A Galaxy Beckons. Decades had passed since the Zorvathian invasion. Scars of the war remained, skeletal remnants of alien structures serving as grim reminders of the past. However, these were mere shadows amidst the vibrant tapestry of a resurgent Earth. Cities had risen from the ashes, gleaming with innovative technology gleaned from captured Zorvathian ships. General James Hawkins, now a seasoned but graying figure, stood before a newly constructed academy, the Phoenix Institute of Advanced Technology. Here, Dr. Sophia Patel, now a renowned scientist, addressed a bright-eyed group of recruits, many of them born after the war. They hung on to her every word as she spoke of cloaking technology, reverse-engineered from the Zorvathian warships, and the boundless possibilities it held. Hawk, looking out at the eager faces, felt a surge of pride. Maya's sacrifice, and the sacrifices of countless others, were not in vain. They had not just liberated Earth, they had ignited a technological revolution. His gaze drifted to a plaque mounted on the Institute wall, bearing the names of fallen heroes, Maya Singh, Sergeant Miller, and countless others. A silent promise flickered in his eyes, their memory would never be forgotten. Later that day, Hawk, his medals glinting in the afternoon sun, stood beside a newly christened starship, the Phoenix. It was humanity's first foray into deep space, a testament to their resilience and a symbol of their newfound power. Captain Sarah Jones, a young woman who had practically grown up on stories of the war, stood at the helm, a fire of determination burning in her eyes. She turned to Hawk, her voice echoing with the spirit of a new generation. "General, are we ready?" Hawk smiled, a glint of his old fighting spirit returning. "More than ready, Captain. The galaxy awaits." The engines ignited, a low rumble vibrating through the ground. With a triumphant roar, the Phoenix pierced the veil of the atmosphere, carrying within it the dreams of a people who had stared down an empire and emerged victorious. The scars of the war may have remained, but the human spirit, defiant and ever curious, was ready to explore the vast unknown, forever vigilant, forever strong. The embers of resistance had become a phoenix, rising from the ashes to claim its place amongst the stars. We would appreciate it if you would be so kind too. Like and subscribe. Comment below. We'd love to hear your fan theories in the comments.